The Old Sailor's Tale. Episode 2: The Man Without a Name. The following evening, the harbor looked much the same as it always had. Fishing boats rocked gently against the old wooden docks. Lanterns cast long reflections across the dark water, and a cool breeze carried the familiar scent of salt and damp timber. Thomas hurried along the pier before the church bell finished ringing for sunset. The old sailor was already waiting. His brass compass rested in his lap, just as it had the night before. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sea itself seemed to be listening. Finally, Thomas broke the silence. "You said a sailor disappeared, and no one could remember his name." The old sailor nodded slowly. That was only the beginning. His eyes drifted toward the horizon as though the years between then and now had vanished. When dawn arrived, the white fog had disappeared. The sea looked peaceful. The sun shone brightly. If someone had seen our ship that morning, they would have believed nothing unusual had happened. But every man aboard knew otherwise. The crew gathered on the main deck. One hammock below deck was empty. A wooden bowl remained beside it. A folded blanket lay untouched. A sea chest still held spare clothes, a pipe, and a small leather-bound Bible. They belonged to someone. Everyone agreed on that. Yet no one could remember who. One sailor picked up the Bible and frowned. There should be a name written inside. He opened the cover. The page was blank. Another searched through the sea chest. Every shirt carried neatly stitched initials. Except the thread had vanished. The cloth showed no sign that letters had ever been there. The captain ordered every crewman to search the ship from bow to stern. Perhaps the missing sailor had fallen asleep in the cargo hold. Perhaps he had injured himself. Perhaps he had hidden as part of a cruel joke. Hour after hour they searched. There was no trace of him. Not a footprint. Not a hat. Not a single memory strong enough to give him a face. The old sailor paused. "Do you know what frightened us most?" Thomas quietly shook his head. It wasn't that someone had vanished. It was that the sea had stolen something no man should ever lose. Our memory. By midday, fear spread through the crew faster than any storm. The youngest sailors whispered among themselves. Some refused to look at the ocean. Others carried wooden crosses around their necks. One old deckhand quietly packed his belongings. He begged the captain to turn the ship around. "We've crossed into cursed waters," he said. "If we continue, none of us will return." The captain listened without interruption. Then he unfolded an old chart unlike any map the young sailor had ever seen. Its edges were worn almost to dust. Strange symbols had been drawn by hand across a section of the Atlantic. Near the center was a circle. No island. No reef. Only a warning. Beyond this point, the ink had faded into a single sentence. "Do not follow the voices." "I've seen this before," the captain whispered. No one dared ask where. That evening, the wind returned at last. The sails filled once more. The morning star began moving west. Relief spread through the crew. Laughter slowly returned. Some believed the nightmare had ended. But the sea had not finished with them. Just after midnight, the lookout rang the warning bell. A ship floated ahead. It drifted without sails. Without lights. Without movement. The morning star changed course and approached cautiously. As the distance closed, every sailor leaned over the rail. The vessel looked abandoned. Its mast was broken. Its rigging hung in tangled knots. Barnacles covered the hull as though it had been at sea for decades. Yet the wood looked strangely untouched by age. The captain called for a boarding party. 5 men climbed into a small boat. The young sailor was among them. As they stepped aboard the silent vessel, an uneasy feeling settled over them. The deck was perfectly clean. No blood. No signs of battle. No broken crates. Only silence. Cabin doors stood open. Meals remained untouched on wooden tables. Lanterns still contained fresh oil. It looked as though the crew had simply stood up and walked away. Then the young sailor noticed something lying beside the captain's cabin. A leather journal. Its cover was cracked by salt and time. Inside, the final entry had been written in a trembling hand. We hear them every night now. They know our names. We have stopped answering. But they no longer need our voices. The page ended there. Every remaining page was blank. The boarding party searched the rest of the ship. Not a single soul remained aboard. Only one thing disturbed the silence. From somewhere below the deck, a single knock echoed through the darkness. Once. Then again. Slow. Patient. As though someone, or something, was waiting beneath the floorboards. The young sailor gripped his lantern tighter. None of the men spoke. The captain slowly stepped toward the hatch leading into the darkness below. He placed one hand upon its iron ring. Then, the knocking stopped. For a heartbeat, the entire ocean fell silent once more. And from beneath the hatch came a whisper. It spoke only 3 words. Open the door.